Tonight's event program includes bios for all of our speakers, and since we're confident you can all read, we're going to dive right in. Please join me in welcoming our first speaker of the night, Mayor Sheikh, CEO of Certona.
Good afternoon. I'm very glad to be here, especially flying back from New York right now, skipping all that weather. Just makes you appreciate San Diego even more. I'm not going to say much about myself other than I've been in the web analytics and predictive analytics business for about 14 years. The rest you can read about Certona. We love data. We like predictive analytics. And we're really into personalization. To make this a little interesting and relevant, rather than tell you what we do and all of our algorithms and put you to sleep, I'm going to walk you through a quick day in the life of a consumer, a hyper-connected, fashion-forward consumer. So before I do that, how many people here shop online? We should say how many people don't. So this is pretty much what's happening today. If you look at this slide, it's really the customer journey. We all have our smartphones and mobile devices, and all kinds of things are happening. You're going on websites, you're getting emailed, you're getting coupon. There's so much going on, and you read reviews, you go on Amazon. We all do it. We all do it, whether it's buying a TV or a $20 item. We like to shop. We like to comparison shop. So as we do that, we're leaving this trail of information on the internet, everywhere. And then there are companies like Certona and others who monetize this information. I can assure you we do it in a perfectly non-creepy, privacy-friendly way. But imagine if you're in a store and every visitor in that store is followed by a store associate who remembers what they do and greets them and knows them. That's really what technologies like Certona's and others do with your online shopping experience, and you don't even know it. When you get those recommendations and you say, hey, how did they know I like that? That's most likely Certona, unless you're on Amazon. And it's not Certona, it's Amazon. So we're going to walk you quickly, and please let me know when I'm out of time, through a day in the life of Jill. Jill lives in New Jersey, works in Manhattan, very sophisticated. Saw a great pair of snake skin slacks. I don't know why my marketing team picked that because I can't say it. Snake skin slacks. Say that fast 3 times. From Jones, New York. On a Facebook post. It's 6:30 in the morning. She's having her breakfast coffee. She pulls out her laptop and searches on Jones, New York. Of course, Jones happens to be a client of ours. A lot of what I'm telling you is not futuristic. It's happening today. We're doing it. Some of it is inspirational, but none of it is Minority Report stuff. Close. So she goes to the Jones, New York homepage. And guess what? Without her telling us, we know she lives in New Jersey. So pops up the no sales tax in New Jersey because we know her IP address. And she doesn't have to tell us where she is. Then we're also showing her what's trending in that area. So what's trending in New York may be different from what's trending in San Diego. We're serving that up in real time. We also know it's fall, so we can adjust it for seasonality. We can also bring in weather data and say it's raining, so show something different. All that is happening real time with data that Jill doesn't have to give us because we can just pick it up from other sources. Now, she looks at those pair of snakeskin pants. See, they felt sorry for me. They changed it to pants instead of slacks. And she placed them in the cart. And then, of course, we're showering her with other recommendations as based on her real-time clickstream and browse profile. So she creates an account and she saves it because she's late for work. And she goes to work, lunchtime, she goes to the cafe. She opens her tablet. And she logs into Jones, New York again. She continues shopping. And now, based on what she looked at before, the homepage changes to offer her some additional products and some kind of a special offer, promotional offer. And we can also show her a reminder of what she looked at, which is very helpful. And of course, because we're doing geo-targeting, we're, again, targeting her based on showing her what's trending in the Northeast. Let's see what Jill did. Okay, so it's the end of the day, walks to her favorite coffee shop, grabs a latte. Hopefully it's not one of those complex orders at Starbucks. And checks her email on her mobile device. And she got a remarketing email from Jones because she was on the site, she browsed, she put something in her cart, but she didn't purchase. So now they're trying to get her to come back. And the remarketing email basically says, this is what you were looking at, and these are some other things you might be interested in. Again, trying to re-engage the consumer and offer her free shipping just to push her over the edge. So all this is happening throughout the day. We can even offer things like, okay, you're $20 from free shipping, so here are some other things to get to your free shipping threshold. So she's looking at different things and adds a printed skirt to her cart. Finishes her coffee, walks over to the park, and now she's receiving a banner alert on her mobile phone. And basically, using geofencing, they're telling her there's a store near you. You can come and pick up that merchandise that you looked at now, trying to get her to go to the nearest store. And of course, we give her another offer that's more targeted to what she last looked at. And then there's a store finder, of course. And then she uses a store locator, store finder, to go find the Jones, New York brand store just a few blocks away. And she can't find exactly what she's looking for in the store, but she contacts a store associate who has a tablet. And the tablets are now increasingly being used in retail stores for clienteling. So if you have an account, you can basically log in, and using all the data and analytics, the sales associates can know what you've done in the past, your purchase patterns, your browse patterns, your likes, dislikes, all of that. So together they find that perfect blouse to go with those snake skin slacks. So she tries it on, and basically she shows her phone to get the promotional offer, and she checks out. And she gets home, she's happy, she's got some new clothes, she opens her laptop, and of course we're not done with her. We're saying thank you for your purchase, and here's some accessories to go with what you purchased. And of course she can look at that, she may not decide to buy anything right then, but she gets some ideas. Then she goes on the site and looks, and then she posts on Facebook that she loves the pants, and she also bought some other things, and that becomes social, and other people, her friends, may get interested. So this is a typical, what we call an omni-channel experience in retail. And omni-channel is all about data. It's all about taking not only structured data in the CRM systems and behind the firewall and the retailers' databases, but also things that are happening on Facebook, your location, weather, your browse behavior. All this is a lot of data that we and others process to deliver this seamless, personalized experience to you. And of course, there's another offer in there, and that's basically it. I'm running out of time. You can look at this on our website, but this is how our platform works. All that magic that you saw is happening through our personalization platform. It's a cloud-based platform, loves data, and loves to predict stuff. In fact, we just got a patent for predicting human behavior, which is pretty profound. So I'm very proud of our scientific and technical team. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike or Ted.
Ted Regulate with San Diego Gas and Electric. Is it working? Screen. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm loud enough? There it goes. All right, so Ted Regulate with San Diego Gas and Electric, and I really like Meyer going before my presentation because we are way behind retail. But who would think that your stodgy old utility would have to start treating their customers in a more personalized manner? And the reason really is, have people heard of a thing called a smart grid? And do you really care about a smart grid? And most people don't care about a smart grid, but San Diego really is the epicenter of a smart grid. We have the highest solar PV penetration anywhere in the United States. We have the highest electric vehicle penetration of anywhere in the United States. And we also happen to be in California with inverted tiers that have some of the highest electric rates in the United States. If you live in San Diego, have you recently got contacted by a solar rooftop installer? That's our competition, head on. We need to get our rates down. We need to get traction with our customers. We need to be their trusted energy provider. So this just goes through a lot of the stuff we're doing. We're rolling out what's called dynamic pricing. It has to do with trying to align the price of electricity with the true cost of electricity. We've rolled out a thing called Reduce Your Use, which is all carrot and no stick. That is going from everybody participating in that program to that you have to opt in to an alert, a text message, an email. The reason why we're doing that is people don't respond unless we engage with them, that they're aware of it. We're also going to be rolling out time of use and critical peak pricing, where the price of electricity gets really high on a high price day. So we need to educate our customers. We need to market our customers. For the first time, we're doing the same thing. We're creating profiles of our customers and trying to figure out what they want and need, gather information about them, and then provide them the products and services they need. So by offering the right information to the right customers through the right channel at the right time, that's what we're trying to get to. But we're nowhere near where retail is. We're just starting the segmentation. We're just starting the targeted messaging. And with the rollout of our smart meters, we're also being able to better understand how our customers use our commodity so that we can better target market what rate would they benefit from. If they use air conditioners, maybe they would benefit from a high SEER air conditioner. So where we really want to do is we want to be able to take a customer down the journey from this is my electric bill, this is what I want green energy, and solve those problems throughout the process. I'm going to talk briefly. I come from customer programs and projects, so it's energy efficiency, demand response, and basically meeting customer needs. We're also using smart meter data quite heavily on the electric distribution side. You see that number one, transformer overload monitoring? That was actually created by some intern students from UCSD about 4 years ago. We were getting the information back from the meters. We said, hey, now that we get this information back, if we sum up all the loads behind a transformer, we can calculate what load is on that transformer. We never had that data before. And I'll show you a few slides on where that has gone. We are really now using this information to design, operate, and alert our system. Do most of you know that for most utilities in the United States, if you have a transformer outage, that means the little green box that sits out in front of your house or the one that's up on the pole, your utility doesn't know? Now, with these new smart meters and others, we are finally getting a view into the very end point of our grid. And we're bringing that information back, and that really just helps us on both running our electric distribution system and also offering products and services to our customers. So if you can calculate the load on your transformer, then you can size your fuses on your distribution system. You can look at how much theft is on your system. We're now with PV. The issue with PV is it's local generation. So you have photovoltaics. So the issue with rooftop photovoltaics is they're generating electricity on our grid. Historically, our grid has been designed so that it comes out of one of the big power plants, comes down the transmission lines, goes in the distribution system. Now we have all this local generation. The system wasn't really designed to do that, but now we have to redesign our system, remonitor our system, so that everything can work in concert together. And then I'll talk a little bit. San Diego County has the most extensive weather network in the United States. And it really came out of the fires in 2007 and some litigation against our company. We put it in to manage our risks. And now, when it comes to a high wind, low moisture day, there are certain circuits in our service territory that we will turn off just to reduce that risk. Because keeping them on, and if there is an arc or something like that, there is a possibility of starting a fire. And if anyone lived here in 2007, those fires can spread really, really rapidly. So we made a significant investment to do that, but now we're using it for a lot of other things. This just goes in through and sort of talks a little bit about what we can do on transformers. We can really now do a load profile on any one of our transformers and then have it kick out at any time which ones are overloaded and why, and so that we can proactively go change out those transformers right away. This, on the weather side, we're using the weather data that we know what the moisture content is, what the humidity and the wind velocity is anywhere in our service territory, and we predict out, I think, like 2 weeks. So we can know 2 weeks in advance if we got an issue, so we plan, we man for those events. I'm going to go into the customer side of the business. Basically, what we want to do is, what do we want to do? How do we value it? How do we validate it? And how do we value it? This side basically lists the data that is coming into the system. These are all the ones that we can do on the right-hand side. Primarily, we're using it for energy efficiency and demand response. What we're doing is we're taking the data and we're disaggregating it. And we are looking at the signatures, and we know that a pool pump has this type of a signature. An electric vehicle has this type of signature. A HVAC has this type of signature. So we can go in the past, if you've lived in San Diego Gas and Electric territory, you probably have gotten a flyer for AC load cycling and you don't have an AC. Well, hopefully in the future that isn't going to happen anymore, because we will know, we won't know if you have an AC or not, because if you don't run it, but if you're running it, we'll know it, and then we'll be able to help you manage that energy use. And it's not only us. You've heard of Green Button, and Green Button download your data. So we're also making this data available to third parties so that they can help customers with their needs. This just goes through, what we do. We use this data to then segment our customers and provide them the right target products and services. And then the big one is customer privacy. This data is our customers' data. We protect that data. We're a member of Privacy by Design, which came out of Canada. And so in each one of our projects now, we are designing privacy in instead of as an afterthought. And the other one is we really want customers to opt in, not default them into sharing their data. So with that, I think I'm turning it over to Mike.
Thank you. So I'm Mike Alfred, co-founder and CEO of Brightscope. If I could have a quick show of hands, how many people in the room have a 401k plan?
A what?
A 401k plan. How many people have had a 401k plan at some point? So almost everyone, right? There's 60 million Americans, close to $6 trillion in assets. And in 2008, when my brother and I first started talking about building this company, we thought it was crazy that there was no way to easily go online and look up, how good your 401k plan is compared to any other and what it cost. And so we decided to build a company. Today, Brightscope's a 70-person company. Some of our folks are in the back here. Brooks Herman, if you want to raise your hand, he's our head of data and research. He was just quoted in the New York Times, actually, today in a big article. And we've really built our brand around providing ratings and information about the retirement industry and also about the financial advice industry. And so a lot of people have heard our name before, but very few people know what we actually do. The closest analogy for us is sort of Morningstar or Bloomberg. So there aren't a lot of companies like that in Southern California, but we aim to really build the next great Morningstar. And what we're really doing is we're helping consumers find and evaluate and select products. And there's a nice feedback loop here, because when you put out ratings like we put out, you're helping to solve a lot of problems for the consumer, right? So the average person doesn't know that much about financial services, doesn't have a lot of financial literacy, right? You can graduate from high school and not even know what an interest rate is, what a bond is. There's a lot of terminology that people don't understand, and there's a fundamental lack of transparency. I mean, that's how Goldman Sachs and big investment banks make a lot of money in some cases, when the customer doesn't really know what they're doing. So what we decided to do with retirement plans is to build a single, simple rating to help people understand what was good and bad. And we came up with this idea when we were drinking a lot of Maker's Mark one evening in 2007, as we tend to do, and we were watching Tom Brady come back that fall for, I think, the fifth fifth game in a row, and the idea hit us like a lightning bolt. We're not going to solve the 401k challenge, by going to the market and saying, please make the products better, right? Or going to IBM or Microsoft and the plan sponsors and saying, we'd like your plans to improve. But if you publish a rating like this, Google's one of the best 401k plans in the country, what it does is it incentivizes every other company to try to be like Google. So we launched the website in January 2009, and the website, all it did at the time was take in a bunch of information from public filings that we had to get from the Department of Labor, run Monte Carlo simulations, running 10,000 simulations to see how quickly you as an average person would get to retirement in this plan at Google, say relative to IBM or HP, and then creating this single score. So all you could do at the time was type in Google IBM 401k or Google 401k, and you would usually see one of these Brightscope rating pages coming up. But one of the things we realized very quickly is in this space is it's not like a lot of other spaces where the consumer can create the change on their own. If you have a crappy 401k plan, right, what's the odds that you're going to get your HR manager to change it tomorrow, right? So if you have a basket of suboptimal funds and you want to invest better, there's no small cap fund. The international fund is terrible. The real estate fund is 2 times the category cost in fees. What are you going to do about that? Well, unfortunately, you can't do much. So what we decided to do was really go after the enterprise market and really arm the T. Rowe Prices, the Fidelity, the Vanguards, the Schwabs with the information they need in order to make better decisions. Because when you help these companies compete with themselves, they will make the products better, even if you as the consumer can't control that. And so this is kind of an interesting chart here. A lot of companies want to do the really sexy, predictive analytics and the forward-looking stuff. The reality is most companies today are way down at the bottom, and they're still trying to get a data set that's big enough with enough time series that they can even do interesting work on it. So we're sort of moving up this curve. We're helping the T. Rowe Prices and the Vanguards get their data in order, do some basic searching and sorting around it, visualizing, custom reporting, and then using it for business purpose. Because at the end of the day, you can have big data and you can have all this information, but if your business users can't use it to make a better business decision, then it's just a really cool technology without something useful to do. And so, when you go into a company like any big company, but in our case in financial services, typically the data is all held in silos, right? So each business line, Fidelity has their bundled retirement plan business, they have their custodian business where they're serving investment advisors, they have their business where they're selling insurance. Each business has a different set of data. In some cases, there's different people, right, or the same person doing multiple things across these silos. So for example, you could have a financial advisor who is selling a mutual fund to a consumer in one bucket, and on the other hand, they're also selling a retirement plan to a company. And what these companies aren't doing a good job of is combining the information, right? So taking inventory of the data they have, figuring out where it is, cleaning it up, what we call wrangling, taking all the data in all these different places. It's different formats. It doesn't speak to each other. There's no identifiers. This is tough stuff to do. And then what we do is we take that information and we put it in the cloud. Thankfully, if you started a company like ours 10 years ago, you couldn't have done this with only 5 or 6 million. We probably have $20 million of invested capital in our company over the last 6 years, but we've only raised $5 million in outside capital because we're able to do most of the processing in the cloud using Amazon. And so once you get it into a format that you can use it, then this is where the fun stuff happens. You get your data scientist, your analyst in there, and they're actually able to use the information to do cool stuff like predicting the future, right? And this is the stuff that Mayor does. They help you spend more, we try to help you save more. And so this is what the full stack should look like, right? It's helping companies. What we're really doing is helping companies do all of this in one place. Some of these companies have tried historically to do this internally. They spend millions of dollars. They have 15 employees doing it, and it just doesn't happen. And so what we're trying to do is build a single platform where they can do all of these things in one place. And in the end, our end goal for all this is to help consumers win. So for example, we work with Schwab, and Schwab did an analysis using a lot of information, and they decided that they should roll out a low-cost indexed or ETF retirement product. Now, you may not have access to that today, right? But the reality is Fidelity and others who you may have a Fidelity 401k plan today is under competitive pressure to lower their costs because Schwab is competing more aggressively, using information to determine which one of your HR directors is most likely to buy their product. So it's a bit convoluted, but unfortunately some of the best enterprise companies are. It's difficult to understand from the outside. It's part of the reason why we only have a few competitors, and they're generally big, stodgy companies that are pretty easy to compete with. I'd become concerned if there were 3 or 4 other companies from Silicon Valley that had raised $20 million to go after our market, but that's not the way it works today. And PR has been great for us. Again, Brooks is quoted, I feel like every other day now in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. This stuff seems a little flimsy when you're starting, a heavy-duty data company, but the reality is every single one of our customers cites the press when they come to talk to us. And at the end of the day, when you're a startup, the first challenge is just to get anyone to care at all, right? Because the reality is, most people start companies and no one ever cares and no one ever pays attention. And this is our new tagline. My brother came up with it. We have trademarked it. As silly as it is, we love this, and it helps our customers understand how excited we are about information. And one last closing thought, and that is that I'm a history major. So as interesting and sort of technical as some of our work is, when you look at it internally, the reality is it takes some vision, it takes a product orientation to help customers use information. It's not all about technology. If it's just about technology, I don't think you're going to get the same level of value. So thank you.
Thank you to the panel for those wonderful presentations. I'm Naveed Alipour. I'm managing partner at Analytics Ventures. At this time, I'd like to invite the panel up, and we're going to grill you. So, Mayor, I just want to start off. I think your marketing department is just playing a joke on you and just wants to get that tongue twister out there. I think you said snake skin slacks 3 or 4 times. So,
Say it backwards.
say it backwards, right? I never got tired of seeing just all the amazing stuff happening in the analytics space, and you hear it everywhere: big data, analytics, and I don't know who put it up on LinkedIn or what article it was, but they said everyone talks about analytics and not that many people are doing it. It's kind of like teenagers talking about sex, and so it's these guys are doing it though. So it's amazing that what's happening here in San Diego. Now, Mayor, you were saying that you guys are picking up trails, and that immediately made me think of that iRobot movie with Will Smith, where he's saying they're picking up cookie crumbs or breadcrumbs. How difficult is that, if you can share with the audience, in this technology and the barrier of entry? Because there are increasingly more and more analytics companies in the B2C space and the B2B space. I mean, what's your secret sauce that you guys do so differently?
Well, our secret sauce is the profiling, but tracking people on the internet is not difficult. It's been done since the beginning of the internet, and we're all leaving these scents and trails and all kinds of things. And of course, everybody is up in arms about the NSA and, oh my God, they're doing this, and we're willingly, from the moment we wake up and turn on our phone, we're leaving trails all over the place. So not to get into politics and policy, that's a separate issue, but it's hard not to give away data about yourself today. And you can certainly delete your cookies in your browsers and we'll have a lousy internet experience and very frustrating. So it's more a question of balancing that with respecting the privacy and being ethical about it. What we found is that consumers, all of us are consumers here, we're willing to opt into something, provide personal information if we're going to get some value, whether it's about our 401k plan or how to save money on our utility bill or how to get a deal, at Petco.
I'm going to stand up because apparently I need to lose some weight and I broke my neck. So, apologies to UCSD and. Yeah, you can take care of it. So you're pulling all this information that you said is public information, and I know SCG&E does the same thing. I know Brightscope does the same thing with pulling the information that's made public, whether it's weather, whether it's the 401k plans and who uses them. How much information is public, and how much of it do you have to purchase or have to get, and this kind of goes to Mike too, is do you have to get access from the companies you work with? And does that, you have to evangelize them, you have to convince them to say, let us get a peek at your data?
Yeah, that's been the biggest change for us in the last year. Financial services companies are very conservative, so you're not going to come to them at the very beginning when you have no brand and you're not big enough and they haven't seen you enough and tell them to give you their data. You really have to be in the market, I'd say, for 5 years. But once you do that, you can go to them and show them how they can use their data for their benefit. And that's a challenge. At the beginning, we didn't know how to do that. So no one was willing to give us their data. But once we showed them how using their data would actually drive more sales for them and more retention, they were willing to provide it. And now the next generation for us is helping these companies share with each other, right? So helping T. Rowe Price share information with Fidelity. And that's where it starts to get really interesting when you have an exchange of information, cleaned up data that is easily sent. When it's transmitted, it's secure. And then when it's received by the other company, it's digestible. Because that's one of the big problems today. You have companies sending out 100 Excel spreadsheets in different formats, and you have a team of analysts inside of Fidelity, maybe there's 5 of them, and they literally, it's like a fire hose, they literally can't absorb it. And so a lot of the challenge at this point is just cleaning stuff up so that it's transmittable. But yeah, if you can get companies to give you information, that's usually a defensible model, and there's probably a lot more value than if it's all public data.
Is that similar in Sertona's case too?
Yeah, absolutely. We work with 550 sites, some of the largest, every brand and right now we have, our catalog is about something around 30 million SKUs or products across our customers. They give us that product information. We know when somebody buys on Petco or Home Depot or Staples or Toys R Us as the moment it happens, because we're tracking all that data in real time. We get store data from them. So there's a lot of data that's coming in. There's demographics data. Of course, it's all opted in because the consumer has a relationship with the retailer. Whether it's Nike or Home Depot, it doesn't matter. But we just make sure we're not breaching that trust and doing anything stupid with that data.
That's the privacy issue is absolutely huge, and it's interesting the example you used with Jill, the professional woman in New York City, and I think on one of our conference calls we were talking about some New York Times or Wall Street Journal article where it's comparing the woman in New York who's got a college degree and she's got an iPhone and a tablet and a Facebook account and a Twitter and LinkedIn, and so she has less privacy, but she gets offers for stuff she likes to buy, or she can see what her friends are doing or get job offers on LinkedIn. So by giving up this privacy, she has a much richer life than, I forgot what the location was where the other female lived that was not college educated, did not have a LinkedIn, did not get job offers. And so it's like you're giving up this privacy, we all are, and we're benefiting from it, but there is going to be obviously issues where the line is crossed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really think it comes down to personal preference. There are some people that don't turn off all their cookies. They turn off their cell phone, and we need to accept that. And if that's the way they want it, treat them that way, or give them their respect so that if they don't want to share their information, they don't have to. But those that do, and they opt in and they see the value, leave it up to the individual to decide how they want to interact.
Well, and on that, I know SDG&E, I think it was someone from the UCSD Supercomputer Center that does some work with San Diego Gas and Electric, and they were saying SDG&E, Sempra, is by far the most sophisticated advanced utility in the country. And they mentioned what you said about the fire
The
awareness
weather.
and all that. And so the smart grids that you have, I mean, you're talking about being able to know if a coffee machine is being used and a washing machine or
We aren't that good yet.
you're not that good yet? Okay. But it's happening.
It will, as you get more and more data and the more that it's finally, the finer it is, it can definitely be done.
So then do regulations preclude you guys
Yeah.
from doing any marketing like
Yeah, so California loves to be first. And California was the first one that came up with a smart grid privacy decision. Came out about 2 years ago. Day before yesterday, the PD, which is the preliminary decision, came out on phase 3. It deals with all sorts of issues. Sharing information with universities, aggregation rules. We are now going to be required to post data by customer class down to the zip code level on a public network so that people, have access to the data. So it's a constant tug between protecting customers' privacy and then also trying to get the most value you possibly can out of the data. And that's why I really like the idea of letting customers opt in, because there's certain individuals that would love to shame a customer because they're a high energy user. From a public policy, their carbon footprint is too big. We should post them on the internet. But take it from their point of view. They're using a commodity. They're using it the way they feel they want to. So it's a balance.
No, it's interesting because there's another gentleman from SDG&E that was saying that maybe he was exaggerating, you correct me, but he was saying SDG&E literally knows where every single meth lab or marijuana growing facility is because they look at the houses and they say this one has spiked way higher, but as a private company, you're not obligated.
Any high users of electricity are easier to ascertain than smaller users.
Could be tomatoes.
Could be
Right.
tomatoes, yeah.
But I mean, unless the
Could be
government...
that the kids just left the lights on all day.
Right.
It's all those iPhone, iPad chargers.
Yeah. Maybe at your house. So with all this regulation, solar energy is you guys can't, if I understand correctly, you can't get into that business to get us consumers to put solar on the rooftops. And if anything, as more and more people do it, it's affecting your capital expenditures and is going to drive rates higher as more people use renewable?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of articles, I would say, in the last month or so about, Warren Buffett was actually interviewed, I think, day before yesterday about the death spiral of utilities. And California and Hawaii have been highlighted as the top 2 on the list. We need to reinvent ourselves. We need to enter into we need to change the regulatory construct, and we are pushing for being able to be involved in areas of the business that we historically have not been able to be. We are a monopoly, so, the local rooftop solar guy is probably going to be scared if SDG&E gets involved in the business, but there are certain customers that would like to get their solar from SDG&E, so we want to be able to compete in the market. Currently, though, we are forbidden from competing in that market.
So then, Mike, can your analytics look at 401ks that have utility so we can not pick those 401ks?
Yeah.
Speaking of your technology, I mean, these guys are real time. Do you have to be real time in your analytics, or is there warehouse data, which for the audience is data that you can, it can be accessed and analyzed, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, that second?
So the financial services industry, some parts of it, like algorithmic high-speed trading is like intersecond. And then you have stuff like 401k plans where you tell your 401k provider you want out of a mutual fund, and the trade doesn't happen until the end of the day, after the market close, right? So there's a spectrum, and I think the goal should always be to get as close to real time as possible. But in some industries, that's just not, either it's not possible or it's not necessary. And so I think as a data company, you just figure out where you fall on that spectrum and you build your capabilities as such. You don't try to build your capabilities like Google if you don't need Google's infrastructure and you're not delivering Google's products.
Sure. Now, with you guys, you're B2B right now. You're not making money off consumers. It's the companies. Now, New York being, the center of the financial universe, is there any pressure for you to leave San Diego, or is that not an issue?
As of today, we have 3 people in the greater San Diego area. As of 3 months ago, we had 0. So we hired a woman from Blackstone, we hired another woman from PIMCO, and then our lead sales guy just moved his family. He's going to have a baby in a few months, and he just moved to Midtown, our Upper East Side, a block off the park. So yeah, the center of gravity is moving that direction, but I think San Diego is an analytics hotbed. There's a lot of PhDs, there are a lot of great data scientists, and San Diego is sort of outside of the echo chamber. You've got the Silicon Valley echo chamber where everybody raises too much money and everybody wants to be like another startup, like everybody wants to be Snapchat. And I think it's good sometimes to remove yourself from all that noise and just focus on building your business. And we're in a very unique area. We can build a public company in the next 5 years in our space without having to deal with any of the shenanigans that a lot of these Bay Area companies that raise $50 million and they lose all their developers to another hot startup that just raised more money from them from Andreessen Horowitz yesterday. So I'm trying to stay away from that and just build a real company over time, and I hope we'll be rewarded for doing that.
No, I think that's spot on. I mean, your 2 companies are perfect examples of that. And sometimes, from my world, it's a big problem when companies raise too much, because now the multiple is so high that they would have to sell for or IPO for to make investors money. And I think in San Diego, we do hard things. We do analytics. We do life science. We do wireless. I mean, it's not Silicon Beach up in Santa Monica where every 25-year-old thinks they're the next CEO of Snapchat. So it's nice to see companies that are doing this and creating jobs in San Diego. One question, though. You mentioned the Monte Carlo simulation. It's not an analytics question, but can you explain that real quick to the audience?
Yeah, so when you don't know exactly what, say, a return stream is going to be in the future, you model it. To put it simply, you run simulations. So you take the expected returns for all of these different asset classes, and you blend them together, and you say what will happen over time. So in one simulation in year 1, you have a 20% year, and in the second simulation, you have an 18% year 1. Right? If you run enough simulations, you get to this sort of stable median number, which kind of filters out all the noise and gives you a good understanding of the relative difference in quality between each plan. So if I run 10,000 simulations for 10 different companies, the median retirement age, which is what we're trying to measure, like how quickly would you as a 44-year-old get to retirement in Google's plan versus IBM? If we run enough simulations, that median retirement age really sort of settles down, and we can use that as a basis of comparison. So I don't know if that helps explain it, but it's just one technique you can use to sort of model something out in the future. It's not an exact science, right?
Right. So predictive analytics is, the term that's thrown out there a lot. And Mayor, you mentioned that you guys are predicting human behavior, and SDG&E probably is working on doing something similar. Can you all 3 just briefly talk about how important that is for your respective companies? And I don't know if it would apply as much to Brightscope as predictive analytics, but I'd love to just go down the line on that.
Sure. As I sit here and speak, we're profiling, tens of millions of visitors online, making a lot of decisions, looking at their past purchase history, looking at what they're doing, looking looking at every click. And we have to process all that and return a personalized experience, whether it's on mobile, email, web, in 250 milliseconds. So we've been drinking from that big data fire hose from day one. And as Mike said, he helps people save money, we help people spend it. I like that.
I'm surprised you like
You're the bad guy here. These two are helping save money, and you're making them.
We met a few years ago and we had lunch, and I didn't know there was a partnership there. And we've, just to give you a perspective, we've generated over $3 billion in online sales just in 2013 for our retail clients. So it's not an insignificant amount, but why do they buy it? Because it resonates, because it feels right, because they know me. But again, in a non-creepy, non-intrusive way. So I think for us it's really important because it's only getting faster, right? Before you had the desktop, then you had the laptop. Now you got your smartphone, which is smarter than most laptops. So it's only getting faster. Everything's getting faster. So that instant gratification for the consumer, for the hyper-connected, hyper-informed consumer is really, in our world, in the retail world, it's critical. Again, as Mike said, not everything has to be real time. Your email doesn't have to, you don't have to get that email right that second. It could be tonight when you go home. But a lot of what we do is real time.
It's interesting you mentioned the $3 billion number because a few years ago, Obama's chief technology officer, the first CTO in the U.S. history, he went around Washington, D.C. telling all the heads of the departments that Brightscope had saved participants $4 billion in 401k fees over the previous few years.
We've got $1 billion to go.
Yeah, which was funny how close those numbers were. And keep on, we did not give that number to him, so we sort of laughed. We don't know where it came from, but we said that's fine if you want to say that. The Department of Labor is now one of our biggest clients, in part because Obama CTO is running around D.C. telling people that we're saving people so much money. But in our case, in terms of predictive, where we want to get to is helping predict the next best fund, or the next fund to fall off, or the next thing the advisor should do. So, for example, you have a 401k plan right now. There is a crappy fund in your plan right now, and we're trying to help the competitors find it so they can get rid of it for you, right? So there's a fund based on performance characteristics. We know that after a fund underperforms for a certain number of years, it's highly likely to come off. So if we can give that information to BlackRock, JP Morgan, T. Rowe Price, Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, and 20 or 30 other companies, their sales guys are literally out in the field right now based on that information, hammering your plan sponsor, your CFO, trying to get them to remove it and replace it with something better, right? So it's a little bit more convoluted. It's not as direct as right now driving a buying decision, but it's driving a buying decision in bulk, right? Where if somebody removes a fund from a big 401k plan, it could be $1 billion or a $2 billion move, where all the money comes out of that fund and goes into a better fund. And so hypothetically, the fees come down for a lot of people who never, they go to sleep not knowing that their plan just got better, but it hopefully got better because of those analytics that were helping drive sort of more productive, more efficient, targeted sales, as opposed to, the Wall Street model is spend tens of millions of dollars to hire a bunch of mostly men who play golf, and you go out and buy steak, right, for a whole bunch of people, and you convince them to use your product, right, and you take them golfing. And that is not where the world should be, right? The world should be, this is the perfect product, and our data analyst knows it's the perfect product based on these characteristics, and we can save money on the steak, because fundamentally you're paying for that steak as a consumer, and we don't think you should.
So that's very similar to the pharmaceutical industry, it sounds like, and how they've, had more regulation and compliance, driving down I think one doctor was telling me in the 80s they had a pharmaceutical wholesaler flying to LA just for dinner and flying back to San Diego. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen anymore, but it sounds like these industries have a lot in common in that regard.
It takes time, and you've got to show them the way.
Yeah.
You've got to take somebody who's used to leading by hiring the guy who knows everything and knows all the best steakhouses and teaching them how to use data.
So I wanted to get to predictive analytics for SE.
Yeah, so we're in an interesting environment. Our annual average utility bill is about $75 a customer, which you look at their cell phone or their cable bill is significantly less. But they think about it maybe 8 minutes out of the year. And it's also very complex. If anybody's ever looked at their SDG&E bill, it's very difficult to understand how it's priced. We're headed towards these new rates and these new offerings. So we need to use analytics so that we can know who can benefit from what and when they're interested. We actually did a very interesting research project with UCSD again, where this was the early part of our smart meter rollout, where we didn't have any smart meter data. We had smart meter data coming back, but the only thing we knew is when they got their bill and when they paid their bill. And from a statistic, it was accurate that on average, customers reduced their usage about 1% to 2% for the first 4 days after they got their bill, and for the 4 days that they paid their bill. So what's that's telling us is their awareness has increased, right? Because
Build them more frequent.
well, yeah, no, but that's where we should make an offer.
So
Is we got to get them when they're ready to act. I'm sure that's the same thing in retail. Is you want to make them an offer. That's why you're making those suggestions while she's checking out. Same thing for us. We have a very limited time span to interact with that customer. We want to use the most of it, and we want to be sure that they're ready to interact when we're ready to communicate with them.
Well, it sounds like what both of you are talking about is really gamification. You're trying to incentivize people by gamifying the
Mm-hmm. And we did work with a small startup company out of Colorado called Simple Energy, just having them compete. And then I'm sure people have heard of companies like O-Power that have made a lot of money out just social norms and comparing yourself versus your neighbor. The new one that we're rolling out is rewards. And the big one about that is tell them that you're about ready to take it away. And that's when they'll get very, it's the less mentality, that they feel they're going to lose it. So it's really getting into better understanding human behavior, and it's not logical.
Sure. It's not. Now, for Certona and Brightscope, you guys are business-to-business B2B platforms. Is there any kind of talk that you could share about publicly about it? Will you at some point be able to have a B2C application, or is that just not in the pipeline? You guys are pretty focused on staying business-to-business.
What I can say publicly is that mobile is the future. Well, it's the present and the future. So whether it's gamification, e-commerce is fairly new. It's only 15 years old, give or take. But it's going to go through a major transformation. And our experience is going to be different. It's not going to be what Amazon wants you to see. And the E is going to be about entertainment. Shopping should be fun, just like the malls are fun. Look at how many restaurants are in the malls, instead of Sears stores. So I think that's where mobile plays a key role, and we're certainly looking at consumer-facing applications as well. But today we integrate into our retailers' mobile experience.
And before moving to Brightscope, how long is from the moment you pitch a company till you close the deal, how long is that process, and who is it within companies that is the decision maker you're trying to get to?
Too long. too long. Retailers, I'm glad you give retailers a lot of credit for being technologically advanced, and they're not. They're also not the most generous people in the world.
They don't have a lot to give. Amazon's taking it all.
Mike's clientele, they're technologically advanced, but they're also greedy. So, you know.
That's fair game now that I said what I said earlier about saving and spending.
So it's really they have to embrace technology, but they have the herd mentality. If Amazon does it, if Walmart does it, if Home Depot does it, then you know it's like the wildebeest who want to cross the river, right? They want to see where the
I think that's true in almost every industry.
right?
Yeah,
It's true in a lot of industries.
Yeah, but so it could take 2 months or 2 years, but really, I think another way of saying it, once we contract with a retailer, within 2-3 months, we can generate incremental revenue for them. But it's not just about revenue and conversion. It's really about delivering a better experience. If you know you go to the sites that you like because they serve up fast, because the content is relevant, because it's dynamic. Those are the sites you like. That's why people like Amazon. You know, so I think it's the complete entire experience, whether you're buying shoes or a 401k plan, IRA, or looking for different alternatives for energy. It is becoming a consumer-centric world, and the mobile and the Internet of Things is empowering consumers. I mean, it's not just about your smartphones. You know, how many people have wireless printers? You can print things from here, right? It's your wireless printer. Now, my paper always gets jammed, but that's not a wireless problem. But it's not going to be that far off where you're going to open your refrigerator and a technology like ours is going to say, you shouldn't eat that. Or you may want to try the bananas, you know? So that's around the corner.
There really is, and another movie analogy, that's what Minority Report, I think, is the one where the refrigerator, the guy's walking down the aisle and says, your milk is about to expire. And as, this whole Internet of Things and machine-to-machine communication, right now, I think they say, well, it is. Most data right now is between humans. I send you a file, a picture, a Dropbox, whatever, an Excel file. But I think I forget, it was between 5 and 10 years, with all this extra data being created by machines, it's going to be machine-to-machine communication. It's going to overtake all the emails and files and pictures that we all share.
Absolutely. If you look at what Amazon's doing with this thing called anticipatory shipping. So they predict what you're going to need, and they don't even wait for you. They ship it to you because they have your account. Now, we've been doing that for a few years, but with a Petco Staples, we don't just ship, we ask, right? But we say, hey, you're out of dog food. You need ink and toner, because we know the usage and consumption patterns, and we can predict with a high degree of accuracy, and those convert really well. So they're taking it to the next step. Now, I don't know if they're going to do it with drones, but for now, they'll probably use UPS, FedEx. But that's eventually, we have Peapod as a client, one of the largest online grocers. Okay, your refrigerator can order from Peapod and have it shipped, right? And just charge your account, much like Uber works today.
I didn't want to hear what Mike has to say about the B2C thing, but that reminded me something that Ted was saying about pricings that'll increase and decrease based on demand. And Uber, as you said, just did that, and it was an uproar because of what they were charging on New Year's Eve in New York City to go 2 miles, or even in San Diego. But it does become a supply and demand. If I'm in New York and it's snowing, I'll pay $90 to go 2 miles.
I worked there for 20 years, and umbrellas, those cheap umbrellas, are $2. As soon as it rains, they're $5, $6. As soon as it stops, they're $2. And no matter how much you pay for them, they break after one use anyway. They just get blown away. But that gets into pricing optimization, and there's a lot of controversy there, where I think Orbitz did that where if you came to Orbitz from an iPad, they didn't fix pricing, although it was portrayed as they fixed the pricing. They didn't. They just re-ranked. They would use an engine like ours. They would show the more expensive hotels to the iPad users and the less expensive hotels to the desktop users with the big monitors.
That's amazing. I don't know how much time we have, but I did want to hear about Brightscope's potential BSC.
Yeah, so we do have a consumer presence. If you go to brightscope.com right now, you can look up 50,000 401k plans worth of information. You can look up 700,000 worth of financial advisors. You can see if they have a bankruptcy. You can see if they have a customer dispute in the past. We essentially took all the data out of the government databases and then presented it back to the consumer in like an easier to use format. And we get 400,000 unique visitors every month and like 1.4 million page views. Not huge from a consumer standpoint, but for a company that's we're admittedly not very good at it yet. We're actually we're trying to hire a growth hacker right now, which is going to be hopefully a transformational hire for us, probably somebody from a big web company, because we think we should be at 1 million or 2 million unique visitors. And we also need to figure out what consumers really want to do. Right? It's one thing to have a transactional site where, like for lawyers, you want to look up a lawyer, it's because you're in litigation right now. Right? Whereas a financial advisor you might hire once and use for 30 years. And so it's hard to figure out, do consumers want to look up financial advisors? Do they want to hire a financial advisor? Do they just want to ask a question and get information? We're really trying to figure out, what people really want to do. Because right now it's just a cool site where you can look up your advisor.
So it's free.
It's free, and there's some value there, and a lot of people tell us they get value, and frankly it drives a lot of our press. So from a marketing standpoint, it's like, we would have to have a CMO and like 10 marketing minions in order to make up for our site. The site's actually cheaper, and it's an infrastructure we need to run our enterprise products anyway. So we look at it as kind of a loss leader.
Got it. Now, so you brought up hiring. This question is to all three of you. How actively are you hiring, and is it difficult in San Diego to find the talent that you need? Let's go down the line.
Well, it's never easy, but like Mike said, there's less competition in the San Diego area because our businesses are data intensive. I think there's a great wealth of analytics knowledge in San Diego, thanks to the universities and all the private enterprises. So I think from that perspective, it's good. When it comes to sales and marketing, product management, talent, those are more challenging. But still, you'd think people would pay to come and live in San Diego. They don't.
Yeah, so we're 70 people now. We'll be 90 or 95 at the end of the year. We're really scaling our sales and marketing expense. Our chairman told me a year ago that we're spending way too much on R&D. So we love our development team. We have about 30 engineers according to our payroll report. And we'd like that to be a 40 or 50 or 100 person team as we get bigger. But in the short term, we've got a product that is selling, and we need to sell more of it so we can grow. So a lot of it's just going to be staffing out our sales territories, and we're hiring a chief revenue officer. We're at the very end, hopefully, of that process. It's been a long process. It's very hard to hire senior sales leadership when you're at our stage. You're not a startup anymore, but you're not a big company with a bunch of well-defined processes around sales and marketing. So we're just trying to grow up a little bit.
Got it. And for FC, you guys are obviously much bigger.
Yeah, we're a little bit larger. We're around 4,000 employees. Due to cost pressures, we're actually constricting, getting smaller, trying to get leaner and meaner. But one of the ways we're trying to get leaner and meaner is through analytics. So those are the type of people that we're hiring from the outside because we don't have a lot of those core competencies in-house.
That's a great point that analytics is going to create a lot of jobs, but it's also going to decimate many jobs. Mm-hmm. And those are some lower paying ones in the sense that restaurants are not putting tablets in their stores because they need less waitresses and waiters. And so that's, as you guys end up putting out better technology on, 401ks and financial advisors, that's a shrinking industry. There's going to be less people on that side.
But that's sort of the American, you go back and you look at how a car was made years ago, and now they're all made with robots. It's transformational.
Creative destruction.
Yeah.
There's the opportunity just moves. The ball just moves down the field. You just have to keep moving with it.
But, that's a great point. It's higher paying jobs, and that hopefully it's a rising tide for everyone. And now, like, for you guys, like, Amazon and e-commerce and all this is happening, so there's less Sears, there's less Home Depots or Macy's and whatnot.
There's more Sears than I could possibly need, I'll tell you that.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, there's probably too much Sears, but
Okay.
Home Depot's doing great. And in fact, their online business, since they publicly announced it, I can share it. They grew 50% last year. They're
5-0?
5-0, so they're doing 2.7 billion online. And the holiday season was stressful. You could see our servers kind of flickering, but all these companies are trying to be like Amazon, and some of them will make it, and most of them won't.
Right.
But regardless of which industry, I read somewhere, I can't remember where, but it was there's going to be a major shortage of data scientists for the next 20, 30 years. So if you don't know what you want to study, don't study English.
Well, on that, I think I got this time for Q&A, so I'm out of questions anyway, so we'll pass that on to the audience. Oh, I'm sorry. One microphone here in this aisle and one by Melissa.
Growth hacker.
What is a growth hacker?
Yeah, it's I'm getting some feedback in here. It's a sort of a technology and data-driven marketer, right? So not a traditional marketer who says, well, I just think based on some simple surveys and testing that we should roll out a product that looks like this. It's actually in real time testing the feedback you're getting. It's a lot of what, I'm sure you have a bunch of growth hackers. We don't have that mentality as much inside of our shop, so we're trying to bring it in. But we need folks that can, for example, change a landing page or change a component of a product and then know almost instantaneously whether that was a good decision, and then do more of that and less of whatever wasn't, and then just keep optimizing across the site in order to create more of what you want and less of what you don't want. It's not rocket science, but there's a whole bunch of people like at LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and companies like that that really help drive a lot of the growth. Like simple things at Twitter, like when they changed the homepage to only have you register, because it used to do all these other things like having trending ticker, that drove like something like 600,000 additional signups per day. Just by the simple homepage change, and there was a young growth hacker, data scientist type individual who drove that change, and apparently went all the way to the top, the CEO, they were fighting it because it's like killing a sacred cow when you change a homepage for a web company that's actually successful. And so you need growth hackers, you need to give them enough leeway, so if they say, we need the homepage to just do this one thing, you actually have to do it. And you start to get a better outcome, and it can change the trajectory of an entire company. And that's where we really need to be better at that. We've very much been like the highest paid person approach in the past, where you put up a bunch of slides on the screen and the highest paid person gets to decide which direction you go, and that's not the way to do it in the modern way. So.
Got it. So, Tyler?
Well, since tonight is big data and I'm going to ask like the stupid user question. And I'm really delighted that Sertona's there. About 2 Christmases ago, I decided I was going to buy my son a little cafe table and chairs. And I don't know where you buy a cafe table and chairs, so I did a web search. And then for like 3 months afterwards, it didn't matter where I was, if I was on Facebook or Twitter or random anybody's site, little windows came up with cafe tables and chairs. And after I got over the creepy factor, I realized, okay, so somebody knows something about me. So my question is, if I click on that link and I actually do a transaction, do you know more about me than if I say, they sell that at Home Depot, and I go to Home Depot's site without going through the link, how does my footprint change based on whether or not I select a targeted ad?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's commonly in the industry known as ad retargeting, product display retargeting. So you look at something, and then they just kind of badger you to death until you get it, right? And there is certainly that data helps because it allows the marketer to know, to segment you and to, you're someone who's more likely to respond to those annoying ads. But ultimately, it also helps at Home Depot to know where to invest their marketing dollars. Do I pay the Google tax and pay Google for AdWords, or do I work for one of those display advertising companies? So, but ultimately, what Home Depot cares about is you buying from them, no matter where you come from. But it does inform them.
Great. We'll go to the other side.
Yes, Mike. Now we know where the feedback's coming from. My question's a follow-up also for Mr. Sheikh of Certona. It's related. How do you, or maybe you could speak a little bit more about how you create meaningful offers? It seems like the success of your business depends on making that customized user experience really fit. And the person who lives in New Jersey versus New York, and the day that it's sunny versus rainy. I mean, do you have an army of people who are authoring these things, or is it purely analytical? And it just seems like, how scalable is that as part of your business?
It's a great question. It's really a balance of art and science. Merchandising has been around for thousands of years. Commerce has been around for thousands of years. Predictive analytics, probably a little less. So, to give you a sense of our scale, we serve up about 12 billion personalized experiences a month in real time. And that's just the beginning for us. It's going to grow, and we deliver in the cloud this content in real time across 47 countries around the globe. But the balance is always a lot of heavy lifting with algorithms. That's where our team of PhDs and what we call revenue optimization specialists come in. So what we've managed to accomplish is do 80-90% of that heavy lifting algorithmically in a data-driven way. Because if you're in charge of merchandising at a Petco or Home Depot, you have thousands of products and they change daily and seasons change. Everything changes. So there's so many variables that's why merchandising doesn't scale. And you can't know every one of your clients, every one of your consumers. But then you also want to be able to have a good experience. What I call, internally, if I see a bad experience, I just say this is goofy. So we want to reduce that goof factor by letting merchandisers really inject their brand objective and what they know about their consumers into that experience. So just because, and you see that at Amazon, I'm sure a lot of you bought something from Amazon and they keep emailing you to buy the same thing. They have no excuse. They're not a brick and mortar retailer. They know everything about me. It's just sloppy. And that's the closed loop feedback that Mike was talking about, is knowing instantaneously, I just bought this barbecue from Home Depot. I don't think I need another one anytime soon. Sell me the accessories. That's where the art and science gets balanced.
Go to this side.
Hi. I'm sorry, I can't see your name placard, but this is for you, Mr. Meyer.
For me?
Yes.
Yes.
I am a user who actively tries to evade any type of attempts to monetize me. Fake names on Facebook, I don't use real names anywhere on the internet, all these precautions that nobody ever follows. So I'm a little bit curious about how effective are your analytics able to identify a guy like myself? I know that my attempts are not perfect, and I'm not a perfect hacker or anything, but I do come up with users who attempt to evade our own analytics, and I'm wondering what the value of somebody such as myself is in your system where you may not be able to paint a complete picture of who we are.
Well,
How do you deal with that?
you never paint a complete picture. I mean, that's, this whole 360-degree view, that's the holy grail, and no one's there. It's a great marketing term, but, you know, unless you delete your cookie on a daily basis, like right after you brush your teeth, we'll know you. All you need to do is
Challenge accepted.
three, 4 clicks on any site, and you'll be targeted in a nice way. In a nice way. We're not going to send a drone after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
The back ends of this are quite interesting too.
Thank you.
This is kind of a follow-up question to that. The topic being big data and you, I'm wondering how much, who owns the data? So after we've put it in, who now owns that data? It's a general question.
Great question. Why don't we start
So
with that
in
down?
the state of California, for electric consumption data, the customer owns the data, and we are the custodian of the data. So that's who owns the data for electric consumption data.
Follow on to that, if I could.
Sure.
How are you going to get, I didn't even know I could opt in. How are you going to get the rest of us to understand that we can opt in and what the benefits are?
So we've got to give you some sort of an offer. And an offer would be, it could be on the TV. It could be radio, it could be press. The one that we have found the most successful is your friend or a social group, somebody that you really trust. So we work with a lot of what's called community-based organizations and try to educate them, and it's much better coming from them than it is from the utility, because there's a feeling that we have an alternative motive. And so I'd be interested, and we're trying, we have, every month you get a bill, right? And there's a bill stuffer in there from SDG&E. How many people read the bill stuffer? It's not that effective. So we're trying, that's why I said, previously it seems like people, when they get their bill and they pay their bill, that might be the time where we send them a text. We have higher open rates when it's not in the bill. If we send you a special letter from SDG&E that's not the bill, you have a higher propensity to open that up and read it.
That's what we do when someone buys from one of our retailers. Almost everyone opens their purchase confirmation email, right, to make sure your credit card was charged properly, you got the right product, then you get a shipping confirmation. That's the perfect place where we put recommendations, because everyone opens them, they're engaged, we know what they did. And the question of data, retailers aren't as regulated as your business or the financial industry. So unfortunately, the retailer owns the data. Now, we own the aggregate data because we do some crazy interesting things with that data. So, but I think where it needs to go is that to empower the consumer to own the data. So today, you can opt out, but that's all you can do. But you should really own and house that data, and you decide when you want to be targeted. Now, we're a few years away from that, but I believe that's where it's going. That's where it should go, to really empower the consumer.
That's a fascinating point, because you can get to the point where Jill shared on Facebook what she bought, and if then 10 of her friends buy it, well, she should benefit from that, and it's a form of monetization, potentially.
Yeah.
where,
What Vonage tries to do, right?
sure, yeah,
Refer a friend and
yeah.
So there's one interesting distinction in terms of ownership, though, and that's, raw data versus enriched data, right? And so, it's like oil coming out of the ground. Like, if you don't refine it, you can't put it in your car, right? And so, the data that becomes proprietary is the data that, like, a firm like Certona or Brightscope adds a lot of value to make it actually digestible or usable by some other application. And that's a key point, because yeah, the data that the underlying data that drives our ratings is public. If you went to the Department of Labor website and pulled down that raw data, you would not be able to do
Anything.
with what we're doing with it without a lot of work. I mean, years of investment and tens of millions of dollars of data analysts and cleaning, and it's really tough. So like, is it public and is it available? Yeah. Is it usable? Not really.
I just got the 2 minutes on. Let's try to get 2 more questions. We'll go this side first.
Yeah, actually having had worked at companies here in town, security companies like WebSense and ESET, I'm actually not surprised at all at the amount of data that is available on us. We actually don't have very private lives. My question is really more oriented around the technology decisions on your internal roadmaps to get to this big data and analytics capabilities and the experiences that you've gone through as transitioning perhaps from SQL to NoSQL, some of these other this new frontier. I mean, it's kind of a crazy environment with a number and diversity of different types of technologies. And I think some of them, even in the Hadoop world, they have zookeepers to manage all the different applications and modules. So I'm curious, a little bit more technical question. How has that influenced your capabilities? What kind of challenges are you facing, and where do you think the next big innovation is in that very messy marketplace of big data technologies?
I can tell you quickly, we haven't hit that scalability ceiling yet, but we use SQL today. We have looked at Hadoop and other technologies, particularly for non-relational data. But I think the big question is, for all of us, anyone who's in the business of adding value to the data, is it's really hard. Everybody talks about big data, and most things you don't understand, you just put in the big data bucket. So understanding what works and what doesn't is 80% of the challenge.
Last question.
A quick question to Mike. I just got a letter from SDG yesterday about my usage of electricity. And it has these tiers, and it says you're using more than a typical home your size should use your tier 4. Now, I haven't gone to the website yet, but it triggered this. I said, my wife, you're leaving the lights on all the time. She says, no, it's all the computers and the TV and whatever. I want to know what is going on that raised that up so high. Can you tell me exactly what that was? Or do I have to go to the website to get it? Or if I go to the website, or you got to just try to sell me something, and I'm not going to know anyway?
So,
Thank you.
So there's a couple different ways. If you go to the website, you can actually go and see what's called your energy chart. So you can actually go in and look for the last year, hour by hour, when you've been doing energy. And that is helpful to some people because they can correlate it with what's going on. There's also what's called an online audit tool that you go in and you answer some questions, and it looks and it says, you should, you're using about this by so much by appliances. Where the next step is, when I was talking about those disaggregation tools, we aren't there yet, but that's where it's going to get really powerful, where we use the data that we know about you, that when we go there, we can say, hey, it looks like you've got a pool pump. You didn't reset your timer. It's still running 12 hours a day, and it's in the middle of winter. Turn your timer back. We've got the data, but it's getting everything stuck together so that we can give the right answer to you. But that's sort of the direction we want to go, but we aren't there yet.
With that, I think we have to wrap it up. So thank you to the panel and